Hey everyone, it's Christian from The Gamer, and in this ARC Raiders video, we'll be going over stash management with full breakdowns for each of the inventory categories, as well as detail why we keep, sell, or recycle items we find topside. We'll also briefly cover some tips from your refiner workstation, as well as best practices for daily trading from Celeste to better leverage a balanced stash. Feel free to utilize the chapters below to jump to any section you need the most help with. If you're someone who brings back a ton of loot with them back to Speranza, either from PvE or PvP, and wants to minimize the amount of time sorting through an overflowing stash, then this guide is for you. And if you have any tips or counter arguments that I missed in this video, then please feel free to drop down a comment below. We'll be hearting all your suggestions for best practices. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. Right, so here we are in our inventory, and right away we can see we've got it a bit tidy. It's not perfect, however, so we'll go over some of our suggested practices together in this video. Last thing I want to note before we get into specifics is that everyone has a different style of play in ARC Raiders. Some people prefer the PvE side, while others prefer the PvP side, which means you might have a different philosophy for what you consider absolutely essential in your stash that others might not agree with. The aim for my stash is all around the gameplay. Everything from solo locked door loot runs, 3-star trial raids, and squad PvP. Our aim is to have enough in our stash to drag and drop into our loadouts, with only ever needing to craft a small handful of essentials to get into a raid faster and more efficiently. Alright, first up is our augments, and right away we can see we have quite a few of these. Honestly, we probably have too many. So let's talk about how to reduce this and how we want to prioritize to maximize this section of our stash moving forward. First things first, I have a green down at the bottom. I don't need this one, so automatically we can sell this for 640 space dollars. Now let's go up a tier and talk blue augments. I like to keep a handful of these when I go on looting runs in some of the map events, as well as the occasional Stellamontis PvP runs. The ones I have the most of right now are the blue looting augments, and to be honest, it's actually the one I use the least. So we can get rid of a few of these and make room in our stash. Now we could sell these for quite a few coin. But instead we'll recycle in order to get these electrical components. The reason we want these is to use in the refiner in order to make advanced electrical components. These are used to craft the pink augments, and crafting one of these costs 2 advanced electrical components as well as 3 processors. That means if you're going to use a blue augment, you're better off buying one from one of the traders here from Lance at the clinic for 6,000 coin, and saving your materials to refine and craft the pink Mach 3 augments. As a last additional tip, do not, I repeat, do not repair augments. Durability degrades when you die, so repairing these only benefits the raider that loots your corpse and picks up your augment. Now let's go over to our shields. Here you can see I'm doing a lot better at keeping things nice and tidy. I've got a single row and I'm crafting as I go before every raid. Because I mainly use the pink looting augment, that means medium shields are my go-to. Pink augments, light and medium. So, medium shield. To craft one, you'll need 1 arc circuitry and 4 batteries. Quick tip here though, I rarely repair shields that are low durability, as arc circuitry is both harder to find and more expensive to refine. The way I keep things efficient is by leveraging Celeste here at the traders. You can leverage Celeste by picking up batteries from her on the daily reset and then recycling shields that have low durability. Since recycling gives you 1 arc circuitry and crafting only costs 1 arc circuitry, you'll trade a low durability shield for a fresh shield for the price of only 4 batteries. Now, with weapons, we can see I've got a significant amount that is eating up a large portion of my stash slots. Ideally, we only want a couple, about 4 or 5, each at level 4. And if you look at my stash, you can see I've got a bunch that aren't even level 4, but that's with good reason. I'll explain here in just a second. The one exception to keeping only a few guns that are not level 4 has to do with weapon mods. If we go over to the weapon mod category, you can see I've got 0 in my stash. That's because weapon mods do not stack. Therefore, it's better for me to house weapon mods by slotting them into weapons in our inventory. So if you take a look at this Bobcat level 3, you can see that 5 items, right, 1 weapon and 4 attachments, now only takes up a single inventory slot. You should never keep weapon mods unequipped in your stash. So let's go through our weapons and see how to manage a list that's getting a bit out of hand. First up is the Patina. Now, this isn't everyone's favorite, but I quite like this for hunting some of the bigger arc like Leapers, Bastions, and Bombardiers. But I probably don't need 7 of them in my inventory. If we keep the ones that house some of our higher tier weapon mods, I see that I can get rid of 3, looks like. I can get rid of 3 Patinas. Okay, now we could sell these again. Instead, however, instead of selling them, I'm going to recycle them. This is because I want the advanced mechanical components from breaking them down. Upgrading a pink gun costs 2 of these components, and recycling gives you 1 back. Since I'm recycling 3 Patinas, I'm getting 3 advanced mechanical components. So, the 2 Bobcats that I have here, the 2 Bobcat 3s I have sitting in my inventory, can now easily become upgraded into Bobcat 4s. So let's go ahead and do that. And there we go. A nice tidy row of 4 Patinas and a couple of high level Bobcats. All right, now let's talk hole crackers. I don't use these often, so I might want to think about recycling 1 or 2 of these to get back a bit more of those advanced mechanical components. So let's get rid of 1 for now. Tempests are looking okay. I'll leave those there for now. Volcano 2, I might think about upgrading this to a Volcano 4 on my next Stellamontes trip. We'll leave that there for now. Now let's look at my Ospreys. I currently have 2 in my inventory, which I think is good since it's not a gun I use very often, and I can't quickscope like Tfue.
Nice.
However, one of them right here is completely broken and is sitting at 0 durability after I used it to hunt Rocketeers. Now, I could repair it since it's the highest tier Osprey that I have in my inventory, but it would cost way more than it's worth, right? Because it's at 0, repairing the Osprey back to full durability would cost between 4 to 6 advanced mechanical components. Instead, I can recycle this broken Osprey and get back 2 mechanical components. I can then turn around and upgrade this level 2 Osprey. We'll go ahead and do that to a level 3 Osprey. And as you can see, we were very efficient with our materials at getting an Osprey 3 back. Now let's go over to our Renegade stack. I've got 4 or 5 of these. Now I've got 5 of these. And I might start thinking about upgrading these to Renegade 4s here pretty soon as well. Torrentes, however, I've got way too many of them. I've got 8 of them in my inventory. 8 to me seems like a lot, so I can get rid of half of these by recycling them and then using those advanced mechanical components to upgrade some of those Renegades. So let's go ahead and do those, the ones I am not using any attachment mods on. We'll go ahead and recycle, get back a couple of mechanical components as well as these medium gun parts. Venators. Venators are looking okay. I've got 6 of them. However, I do like using these a lot, so I might keep those 6 in case I do some Stellamontis runs soon. I can upgrade some of these level 3s, actually, into Venator 4s. So let's go ahead and do that. And by doing this, we're actually also keeping the weapon upgrade screen nice and tidy as well. All right, now anvils, I have way too many of. I have 11 right now, but a majority of them here have the green silencer weapon mod. It is a bit expensive to make. What I think I do here, since about half of these are level 4, is to prioritize using some of my anvils on the next couple of raids. Maybe I do that. Alternatively, I can also detach some of these silencers and equip them on guns that don't currently have any muzzle attachments. I think the majority of them do. I can then recycle these guns to get back some regular mechanical components and use those to upgrade my large number of El Toros here down at the bottom, which is one of my favorite guns to use in PvP. Finally, I've got a couple of gray guns here down at the bottom, all at level 4. And I use these, or I save these rather, for when I want to switch things up in PvE or PvP. If I was really hunting for stash space, maybe I think about recycling some of these Pharaoh 4s, since I'm probably least likely to take one of these, like this one. We actually don't even, we don't need this one. We can get rid of this one. And that weapon mod, see, sits nice and alone. It's a compensator. This would be good for Bobcat or one of our Venators. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, Venators do not have muzzle. That is correct. That is correct. Egg on my face. Do I leave that in? Maybe I leave that in, huh? All right, I quickly went through my inventory and I saw that I had no free weapons available for me to put either this extended light mag 1 or a compensator 1 in, so I'm going ahead and sell those for a quick 1,000. Swimming in dough. Next is ammo. Here we go. This is going to be entirely preference based for how much crafting you want to do before a raid. Not everyone likes to do a bunch of crafting. I know. I like keeping 1 stack of each ammo type so that I can use my resources more on refining and less on crafting ammo. But if you have an abundance of crafting materials, then of course, feel free to sell these as needed. Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about our quick use items. The only thing I like to keep in this category are what I call my high priority heals and my high priority explosives. First, let's talk heals. I like to keep herbal bandages and shield rechargers ready to go at all times. Incidentally, it's also what I currently have the least amount of in this section. We'll talk a bit more about these shield rechargers a bit more in depth, as well as these herbal bandages down in the materials section here, the crafting materials category, in just a minute. For now, Vita shots. Vita shots are great, or Vita shots, rather, I think, are great to use in tandem with any of our other bandages. You may have seen this tip online, but in case you don't know, you can double up on heals by using one of these at the same time as a bandage. So while your bandage is doing that heal over time, you can then use a Vita shot to quickly recover a big chunk of your health. Surge shield rechargers I save for when I'm doing some real sweaty PvP, like in a night raid with my squad. However, I don't actually craft these as these require advanced arc power cells, and I actually save those, for another purpose. Instead, I buy them from Lance at the clinic. They're a bit expensive, but we've got the money for a few of them. We're not hurting for it, and I save again those power cells for later down the line. We'll talk about more of that about that in depth. Defibs, always great to have a couple, especially in team play. So I usually will save these, or you'll see me stick a few in my safe pocket right here before a raid. Vita sprays are another I prioritize in using in those intense PvP raids, especially since these do not stack here in our inventory, and you don't want to hoard them and have them eat up a bunch of slots in your stash. So I will try to use those in an upcoming raid just to get free up some of my extra slots, although we're not hurting for it too bad right now. But if we were. As for explosives, the only things I really keep on hand at all times are wolf packs for completing trials, deadlines for killing queens or matriarchs, and then trigger grenades and trailblazers. Trailblazers I've got none of right now. I have some shrapnel grenades, so we might think about actually using these pretty soon. These are okay. I like these not as much as I do for trailblazers. But everything else I craft on a per case basis. Things like zip lines, barricade kits, door blockers, and other mines. All of these are easy to make and better used with an objective in mind before a raid. Additionally, if I return to Speranza with a couple of quick use items that aren't high priority, right, that I'm not going to be hoarding in my stash, then what I do is I either equip them or sell them. In this case, I found a smoke grenade and a lure on my last raid. These I find pretty valuable for getting out of intense situations where ARC are sort of honing in on me. So I'm keeping these for my next raid. Other items like the guitar, of course, is for fun. I keep that. But I also keep snap hooks and photoelectric cloaks for things like matriarch events. I've only got 3 of these here in my stash. That's okay. If anything, I can probably get rid of this recorder. So maybe I go ahead and do that real quick. I don't need to recycle that. I can sell it for 1,000. Now let's switch on over to our keys, and immediately we can see we've probably got way too many of these in our stash right now. We never really want more than 4 or 5 of these at any given time, especially since keys do not stack. So a priority for us the next time we sit down with the game might be to go on some locked door loot runs and get rid of some of our keys. Just remember that the loot pool for any of these key rooms is always better during a night raid and not a day raid. So we'll want to look out for those and leverage night raids as we can, which means we will not be doubling up by using something like a Stella Montis medical storage key and a Raider hatch key, since again Raider hatch keys do not work during night raids. So it'd be a bit slow going, but slowly but surely we'd get rid of some of our stash here. The one exception that I would note for these keys is to hold on to locked rooms that get you to rooftops. Something like a dam control tower key or the spaceport control tower key will get you to a room with a rooftop. And this is great for doing things like 3-star trial raids. So damaging Rocketeers, damaging Hornets and Wasps, any sort of flying arc. Great to do on rooftops accessible with these keys, as they only have singular entrances and exits. So you may want to keep some of these keys in case a trial comes up this week, next week, whenever, that has you do tasks like damaging flying arc. Additionally, we probably don't want 3 Raider hatch keys in our inventory at any given time, since they're pretty easy to craft. We might be thinking about how to best use these sort of immediately in our next runs if we are not using one of our locked room keys. Finally, let's talk crafting materials. This will probably be the longest section, and I'll try to go through every item individually and explain why it's a priority in my inventory. Bombardier Cell, I'm tracking for request of complex gun parts. Here we go. I keep a couple of these to craft one of the legendaries in case I need one for a trial or a matriarch event. Right now I have no cores actually in my inventory, so maybe I think about selling or recycling a couple of these. I'm not hurting for simple gun parts, so I would say a sell is okay. We'll do just the one, the single. Exodus modules I keep for crafting Tempest and Bobcats, but also in the case I'm running low on processors. If we recycle these, we can see that we get more processors in order to craft more pink augments. Processors I'm running a bit low on, so actually maybe I think about saving some of these Exodus modules in case I need more to craft more pink augments. Same goes for these magnetic accelerators. I keep a couple to craft a Tempest or a Volcano, or I can recycle for a few extra advanced mechanical components, which we've talked about how important these can be for upgrading our weapons. Power rods I keep for extra snap hooks. Snap hooks, again, do not stack, so I keep a couple power rods handy, and that's the way for you to manage that sort of inventory, craft as I go. Then I have a bunch of advanced arc power cells. These very important. These are how I store the means for crafting those regular green shield rechargers. Shield rechargers go into our workshop. These cost power cells to make, right? 5 rubber parts and 1 arc power cell. But I don't always want to be hunting for these, right? Instead, and let's leave here. I don't want Scrappy yelling at us. Instead, when I run out of arc power cells, right, I'll simply recycle my advanced arc power cells. And here you can see that these house these regular arc power cells. All right, for every 1, you'll get 2 back. So a stack of 5 will give me 10 of these regular power cells. In other words, it's an efficient way to double up on your storage of arc power cells while minimizing the amount of slots they take up, right? So you can see down below, I've got 3 stacks of these, right? I don't want to waste inventory space by recycling them now, so by keeping them here, it's a way of Matryoshka dolling my power cells. Advanced mechanical and advanced electrical components we've already talked about, but you can see I keep a lot of these on hand, sort of ready to use. Arc circuitry is another we talked about for crafting those blue medium shields. The best way to store these is by keeping arc motion cores here in your stash, right? A little bit different how these work. Recycling a stack of these will give you 10 arc alloy, which you can then turn around and refine. Here we go. Here we go. Into arc circuitry, right? Then, of course, we have all our gun parts. Our gun parts come from recycling our low-level guns, which we then turn around and upgrade our remaining weapons into level 4 guns. Mod components, these I think speak for themselves. I keep stacks of these to craft attachments as needed. Moss. I'll quickly talk about moss here for a second. I have a handful of it to craft into defibs. And usually I get this material whenever I complete a trial for harvesting plants. Otherwise, you know, I've recently done this, so otherwise, and I've got a couple of defibs, so otherwise I wouldn't have this. But for now, it stays. Processors, again, we use these for crafting pink Mach 3 augments. I also keep a handful of sensors for whenever I need to craft a radar hatch key. Same goes for syringes and these voltage converters, right? For those heavy shields and when they're needed. Batteries, one of the most important resources in the game, in my opinion, at least for the way I play, right? Again, those medium shields, since they're mainly used for crafting those blue shields. The most efficient way, again, to keep a stack of these on hand is to pick them up from the Trader Celeste. Every day you can grab 10 from her after that daily reset. The same actually goes for Great Mullen. I've got a bunch of Great Mullen. I don't almost ever loot this in raid. I instead just get this from Celeste with seeds to craft those green herbal bandages. Yeah, as you can see, I've got way more Mullen than I do durable cloth, however. So instead, I might think about using some of my seeds to pick up a bunch of fabric, since Scrappy doesn't have much for me right now, I think, and use those to refine it back into durable cloth, make more herbal bandages that way. From here, the remainder of the items are material I get from either scavenging while topside or recycling when back in Speranza, right? Electrical components, magnets, duct tape, simple gun parts, steel spring, and wires here. All essentials for crafting and maintaining basics and a bunch of your essential gear. Again, if you don't want to waste time farming these specific items on looting runs, it's best to simply recycle a bunch of the material you find topside and keep what you do need, sell what you don't. All right, so here we have a full backpack, fresh from an extraction of a raid from Stellamontes. It wasn't a great raid.
Hell yeah, excellent raid, gentlemen, excellent raid.
But that's how things go sometimes at Stellamontes. Things get a little heated and you've got to extract with an average backpack. So we're going to go through and see what I would do with a bunch of this material. Starting with our augmented slots, we can always immediately sell this stuff we do not need. Right, we're gonna work top down. This stitcher, actually, the stitcher I do not need. I found this off a body. We're not using this one. We'll sell. The ammo that came along with it. I don't have any light ammo currently in my stack. Yes, I do. I like keeping at least one stack, so there's 20. We'll sell. Light shields. We've got one equipped on us. We prefer the mediums. We went in with a light shield, and we do not need any other lights, but checking to see if any have higher durability. They do not. We can sell these. We don't need to recycle them. We don't need the plastic parts from the light shields. Pop triggers, I believe, we recycle because we want, we want that arc alloy to then refine into arc motion core. So we'll recycle these. Crude explosives, I'm running low on these. Gonna grab a couple of those. Rusted tools, we want actually a few of those metal parts, but especially these steel springs. Recycle that. Magnets to use for some Mach 2 augments or some venators. We'll take those. The canisters, I actually have maybe a bit too many in my inventory right now, so we'll we don't need those plastic parts, so we'll sell this, excuse me. This radio relay, this was the goal of my Stellamontes run, to do a bunch of Exodus material. Did not work out that way. We only got one, but again, so it goes. And we actually don't need any of these right now. We've got 3 Raider hatch keys and I believe 2 or 3 stacks of sensors. Don't need those, so we'll sell for 6,000. Again, that arc alloy we're taking with us. Want to refine those? It can be very expensive. The roasted bolts, I believe recycling gives you metal parts. We're doing okay on that right now, so we can sell that. This fabric, I always take the fabric with me to then refine into durable cloth. So that we take. Metal brackets, is that metal parts as well? We don't need that. We'll sell that. Wires, every single time. We'll take them. We'll take them. Simple gun parts, we probably have too many of these, but we're going to upgrade some guns, so grab a couple more. Mod components, again, always speak for themselves. Take those. Duct tape, of course, need those to craft our weapon mods. Let's take that. Explosive compound. Would be nice to have some extra wolf packs coming up for some trials. Maybe we take that for now. Broken flashlight, let's recycle that because we want these batteries. Absolutely huge. And then this tagging grenade. Good to use in occasional scenarios. I don't always like it though. Maybe I think about taking it on my next raid, but yeah, since I have a smoke that I found in my last raid, maybe I double up, throw a smoke in case I get into any encounters, throw a tagging grenade, double up on those. Bob is your uncle. Adrenaline shots. Yeah, I like keeping these. I don't have to craft them anymore, since I've got 4 of them. And there we go. We've got sort of an empty inventory. Sort of my next steps that I would do is sell this light shield, and then get ready for another raid with a different objective in mind. Swap out this gun, you know, what have you. And there you have it. That is how I would sort through my stash and keep things nice and tidy for some all-around gameplay in Arc Raiders for both PvE and PvP. Hope you enjoyed this guide. Let me know if you have any other suggestions for what you do with stash management. And until next time, we'll see you in the next one.